The night of silence, Mina, driven mad by grief and terror, begged the village priest for help. He was a broken man, more storyteller than saint, but he agreed. He fasted for 3 days and lit old ceremonial fires meant to banish the hollow folk spirits of the in-between said to steal the souls of the forgotten. That night, he stood before Amaya and chanted until his voice cracked. She said nothing until he uttered the final line, "Return to the root that birthed you." Then she spoke. Her voice was not hers. It was many voices layered atop each other, male, female, ancient, newborn. There is no root, only rot, and rot eats everything. The priest burned alive in a ring of white fire. His ashes were gone by morning. The ground where he stood was now glassy black. The villagers no longer spoke Amaya's name. They called her only the hollow-eyed girl. Some said she was a ghost, others said a god, but Mina knew she was a door, and something had walked through her. The hollowing. The forest around Thakarwan grew, the fields rotted, the sky above the village dimmed even at noon. Time grew sick. Children aged backward. A baby was born with bark for skin and ants in its eyes. Mina, the only one who still tried to speak to Amaya, asked her what she wanted. Amaya only said, "To open." What does that mean? Amaya's black eyes shimmered. This world is a lid. Beneath it, something waits. I am the crack. Mina began to dream of vast, blind things crawling beneath the soil, of hands stretching up through her floorboards, of lullabies sung by buried mouths. One by one, the villagers fled. The further they went, the more they forgot. Some reached cities and lived as beggars, unable to recall their names. Others walked into oceans, still trying to escape. Only Mina remained. 6. The last offering years passed. The village fell into ruin. Trees now grew through rooftops. Roads ended in chasms. The thakar tree bloomed white, its sap thick and red. Amaya never aged. She sat each day by the tree, speaking into its hollow. One day, Mina returned to the tree, older, worn, trembling. "I have nothing left," she said. "Take me." Amaya blinked. "You don't understand. You were never mine to give." "Then what was I?" "The first watcher. You kept the door closed for 7 years, but the lock wore thin. That's why I was born here." Mina wept. "And now?" Amaya stood. Her body shimmered like smoke. Now it opens. Title: The Girl Next Door. When the Wards moved into the house next door, everything changed. Their daughter, Lily, was about your age, quiet, pale, and always dressed in the same white dress. She didn't speak much. She'd just sit on the porch, swing for hours, staring at nothing, her long black hair swaying in the wind even when the air was still. Your parents said to be nice, so you waved. One day, she waved back. That night, your dreams changed. You dreamt of a house filled with whispers, of doors that opened into darkness, of a girl in white, standing at the foot of your bed, her head tilted just too far, her eyes leaking shadow. You woke up screaming. Your window was open. Lily was on her swing, staring at your room. Then things started to disappear. First your cat, then your toothbrush, then your reflection just for a moment seemed to blink when you didn't. You told your parents. They told you to stop watching horror movies. But one day you saw it. Lily talking to someone who wasn't there. Not like make-believe, not like a game. She argued with it, and she lost. The next morning, the Wards were gone. Their car still in the driveway, their lights still on, but the house was silent, cold, like no one had lived there for years. A police search turned up nothing. They said they must have moved in the night, but you knew better, because that night, you heard the porch swing creaking again, and when you looked out your window, Lily was there. Only now, her skin was gray, her dress was dirty, and when she turned to look at you, she smiled, wide, too wide. She lifted her hand, crooked her finger, and beckoned. You blinked. She was gone, but the swing still moved. And your door, locked tight, was slowly creaking open behind you. Title: The Idol in the Forest. There's a forest near the edge of a small village in Odisha, thick, ancient, and avoided after sunset. In its heart lies a temple no one talks about, not because they forget, but because they try to forget. The warning. 20 years ago, a man named Hari Prasad was hired to survey the land. He was educated, logical, and laughed when locals warned him, "There's a temple in those woods, don't go near it. The goddess there, she doesn't like being seen." Hari dismissed it. All temples welcome people. But the village priest shook his head. Not this one. She was buried, bound, and forgotten for a reason. The journey. Hari entered the forest at noon, carrying his map, compass, and a mild sense of superiority. He walked for hours before he saw it. A stone temple overgrown with roots, the entrance half collapsed. Vines slithered like veins across the walls. Inside, the air was cold. There was no light, yet he could see everything. As if the darkness itself had eyes, he stepped toward the altar. There it was, an idol of a goddess, but unlike any he'd ever seen. She had 6 arms, all broken. Her head was bowed, but her face was covered with a cloth, tied tightly. He reached out, curious, and pulled the cloth away. The eyes. There were no eyes on the idol's face, just 2 deep black holes. And then they blinked. Hari stumbled back. From the walls, a low moaning rose stone groaning, like it remembered pain. The ground trembled. Suddenly, the trees outside shook violently. Birds took flight. Somewhere in the forest, drums began to beat, but no one was playing them. Then a whisper filled the air. You looked. Hari turned to run, but the door had vanished. In its place, a mirror stood, reflecting not him, but a twisted version. His eyes missing, blood dripping down his cheeks, and in his reflection, behind him, the goddess moved. The ending. They found Hari 2 days later, crawling out of the forest, eyes wide open, but not seeing. He never spoke again. He just repeated the same words, over and over. She lives now, because I looked. They sealed the forest paths, built shrines around it to trap her presence. But every few years, someone wanders too deep. And if they find the temple, they always remove the cloth. Because something about that idol makes you look. And when you do, she sees again, through your eyes. Title: The 13th Life. In a fog-draped village, tucked deep in the English moors, where no road led but one, there lived an old woman named Elswith. She was the village herbalist, wise in roots and whispers, and always followed by a sleek black cat named Nix. Its yellow eyes gleamed with a strange, knowing light, and its presence was so constant and silent. The villagers joked that it was her shadow given life, but they whispered 2 odd things. Of babies crying backwards in their cradles, of milk curdling in full moonlight, of voices calling from empty fields. Always, when something went wrong, Nix was seen sitting near, tail flicking like a ticking clock. One stormy night, the village butcher's boy, Will, vanished. His mother claimed she saw the cat sitting on the windowsill just before he disappeared. It looked at me, she wept, and it smiled. That was the night they turned on Elswith. They came with torches and shaking hands, found her in her garden by the old standing stones, and dragged her to the tree on the hill. Nix trailed them calmly, silent even as they bound her wrinkled neck with rope. Elswith didn't scream. She only looked at the cat and said, I warned you, love. The 12th is all you are allowed. Then, to the crowd, she whispered, he has 1 life left. 1. They hanged her before the words could chill them. The next morning, the cat was gone. But strange things began. Children spoke in voices, not their own. Shadows stayed after people left. One man woke up with scratch marks over his heart, and no memory of the night. Another was found staring into his fireplace. Eyes burned black. They say Nix comes back on stormy nights, its fur slick with rain that smells of graves. It watches from rooftops. It waits at doorsteps, and every 13 years, it chooses. The old tree on the hill rotted from the inside out, and nothing grows near it anymore. But sometimes, just before midnight, villagers swear they hear purring, or the creak of rope, or the whisper of an old woman. He has 1 life left. 1. Title: The well behind the school. In a small Indian village, there was an abandoned well behind the primary school. It was old, covered with moss, and had no rope or bucket, just a black hole gaping at the sky. Everyone told the children never to go near it. "It's cursed," the elders warned. "Long ago, a boy fell in. We never found him." Only his screams echo back now. But 9-year-old Arjun didn't believe in ghost stories. One hot afternoon, when his teacher had dozed off during nap time, Arjun slipped out of the classroom. He tiptoed to the back of the schoolyard and stood before the well, its stones warm under the sun. He peered over the edge. Nothing, just blackness. "Hello," he whispered. Something whispered back. "Hello," his own voice but warped, like it had been buried for years. He blinked. Maybe he imagined it. Then he dropped a pebble in. No sound, no splash. Suddenly, a cold gust rushed out of the well, and Arjun stumbled back. A hand thin, gray, and dripping shot out and gripped the edge. Then another. A face emerged, pale, hollow eyes. No lips, just teeth stretched into a terrible smile. It looked like a boy. It looked like him. The creature crawled out silently, dripping water that hissed as it touched the ground. Frozen, Arjun watched as the thing took one step toward him, then opened its mouth and said, "You looked in. Now I get to come out." With inhuman speed, it lunged at him. The teachers searched for Arjun for hours. They found his school bag near the well, but no sign of the boy. That night, the villagers sealed the well with bricks. But even now, if you walk behind the school at night, and if you listen carefully, you might hear 2 voices whispering from deep below. The Whispering Fields. In the heart of the forgotten valley of Thakurwan, a crumbling village lay scattered among crooked trees and dying fields. The air always hung heavy there, a wet, earthy smell that clung to everything. People spoke in hushed tones, as if raising their voices would awaken something buried deep. At the edge of the village lived Amaya, a 7-year-old girl with wide, coal-black eyes and a quietness that unnerved even the elders. Her mother, Meena, worked in the fields. Her father had vanished one monsoon 5 years ago, walked into the fog one morning and never came back. Most assumed the forest took him. In Thakurwan, the forest always took something. Amaya was a peculiar child. She did not cry when her father disappeared. She spoke rarely, and when she did, her words came in riddles or strange observations. The crow eats light when no one looks, or the well dreams of falling people. The other children avoided her. Even her mother had begun to fear the stillness in her. One morning, the village awoke to a thick mist. The dogs would not bark. Birds were silent. The fields bore a single row of crops turned black and brittle, as though scorched by moonlight. Meena found Amaya sitting by the old Thakartreya gnarled thing at the edge of the field, older than the village, its bark streaked with pale sap like dried tears. She was whispering into a hollow in its trunk. When Meena asked what she was doing, Amaya replied calmly, "Listening." 2. The vanishing. Over the next few weeks, strange things unfolded. People began disappearing first. An old woman, then a boy who had once thrown a stone at Amaya. Each vanished without struggle. No footprints, no blood, just empty clothes left behind, folded neatly. Amaya never spoke about them, but sometimes she would stand in their doorways and stare for hours. The villagers, gripped by fear, whispered curses and prayers in equal measure. They muttered about the child born wrong and forest-touched souls. One night, the headman, Ratan, gathered the villagers in secret. Torches flickered in a circle around the communal well. There, with lowered voices, they voted. "We send the girl away." They came to Meena's hut before dawn with heavy eyes and trembling hands. Meena pleaded, but they would not listen. She begged Amaya to run, but the girl only smiled faintly. "They've already been invited," she said, "but they think it was their idea." They dragged her to the edge of the forest and left her there, offering a talisman of turmeric and salt. She stood motionless as they walked away. None of them looked back. Title: The Widow Under the Neem Tree. In the heart of a remote village, where electricity flickered and dogs howled at nothing, there lived an old woman named Mai. No one knew her real name, just that she had outlived her husband, her children, and even her neighbors. She lived alone, under a massive neem tree, her house blackened with soot and silence. Children were warned, don't go near Mai's house after dark. She talks to shadows. But one stormy night, 17-year-old Deepak, skeptical and bold, accepted a dare. Spend 5 minutes at Mai's doorstep. He walked through the muddy path, torchlight flickering, rain tapping like fingers on his back. Mai's hut stood still, no light. Only the neem tree creaked in the wind. As he approached, he saw her sitting on her charpay, back turned. "Mai," he called. She didn't move. "Mai, I'm just here for a minute." Then she slowly turned. Her face was a wrinkled mask of age, but her eyesure eyes were completely white. No pupils, no life. She smiled, toothless. "I knew you'd come. He said you'd come." Deepak's torch flickered out. He heard whispers not from Herbot from behind him. He turned. Nothing. When he turned back, Mai was gone. Only the charpai remained. Wet. Empty. Suddenly, the neem branches rustled violently above. He looked up. Mai was hanging upside down, arms and legs twisted like a spider, head turning unnaturally to stare at him. She whispered, "He lives in the tree now, and he's hungry." Something black, with claws and eyes like dying stars, crawled down behind her. Deepak screamed. The next morning, his friends returned to the hut. They found the torch, still wet, but no Deepak. And where the neem tree stood, its bark was wet with something red. Maya was never seen again, but the charpai still sits there. Sometimes it rocks by itself, and if you dare sit under the neem tree at night, you might hear a voice whisper, "He said you'd come." Title: They Should Have Been Home by Now. It started like any other evening. Your parents left just before sunset, saying they'd be back in a few hours. Just a quick trip to town. They didn't seem worried. Neither were you. You even waved from the window as their car vanished down the dirt road. But then night came, and they didn't. At first, you thought they must have gotten delayed, traffic maybe, or stopped to help someone. But hours passed, and the road stayed empty, swallowed by the trees. You called, no answer. You texted, delivered, but no reply. Then their phones went offline. Day 2. You sleep by the window. Every pair of headlights makes your heart jump, but they never stop at your driveway. The food in the fridge starts to feel like it shouldn't be yours. Their toothbrushes are still wet. Their bed is still warm. You hear footsteps upstairs. You live in a one-story house. You check. Nothing. Day 4. The police come. They knock. They ask. They leave. You hear them mutter, "Probably ran off." But they don't say it to you. You hear crying at night. Not yours. A thin, choked sound in the walls. Day 6. You find your mother's keys on the kitchen counter. They weren't there before. Something is wrong with the mirrors. You look into one, and your reflection is delayed. A blink too long to follow. It doesn't smile when you do. There are fingerprints inside the bathroom mirror. Day 9. You hear the front door open. Footsteps. Voices. Mom? Dad? You run, your heart lifting, and stop. They're standing there, but they look off. Wrong. Their eyes are so wide. Too wide. Your mother says, "Sorry we're late, sweetheart." But her mouth doesn't move.